are the locals in Byron saying about these tiny number of infections, the one today, the one yesterday, and the scaremongering prior to that, that maybe this was going to blow out to a big wave in northern New South Wales? What are people talking amongst themselves about this?
Well, I guess there's a various, suite of opinions. Some were really keen to create borders and to, shut everyone else out. There is a concern, obviously, when you're a host community, a tourist community, that people can bring, a positive case to us, and then we as a community are sort of dealt a pretty significant blow. Others were very keen, I guess, perhaps along your editorial lines, that we needed to put into context. I think really most of us, though, just wanted to keep relying on, best expert health advice that we have sort of for the last 12, 14 months.
Just on the Blues Festival, though, it was right that the promoters had already put in place a strict protocol that had been approved. And I heard some of the singers, some of the performers make comments today about the fact, well, hang on, if you can all turn up to the football, the NRL, in a stadium, why couldn't we implement our COVID-19 protocol plan and do it safely? It's a fair argument.
Oh, look, absolutely. I think it's been disgraceful how the sporting industry's been supported when the creative industries have just been left and gutted, really, over the last 12 months. It certainly hasn't just occurred now. I mean, we've had, when you look at festivals, they are open spaces, so therefore you can configure toilet blocks and queuing basically from a paddock, whereas I went to the Gabba at the end of last season watching an AFL match. It's a concrete stadium, there's toilets exactly the same, the lines, it was as though COVID didn't exist at the Gabba, and then you cross the road to the pub and all of a sudden you have to stand 1.5 metres apart from each other. But look, I guess,
but having said that, if that's what you think, and I think you're spot on, don't you think the New South Wales government in this instance jumped the gun?
Look, I think the bigger question was not necessarily what was going to take place inside the Bluesfest site itself. You're right, they had about a 45-page COVID management plan. It was probably going to be potentially safer than many other places in Byron. I think it was the issue was as much what people were going to do before and after Bluesfest, as far as just having 15,000 extra people per day in and around Byron. Look, for me, as I said, it was devastating, but I also supported it closing like ultimately the organisers did, because we just didn't know. I'd rather overreact than underreact. We still don't know whether there's any more cases. I mean, cases can take 5 or 6 days to manifest. We've had a day today with none, and one obviously previously. There's no guarantees that in 3 or 4 days' time we're not going to get more. And as I said, we just need to keep moving with the health advice and have faith in that. It was a devastating, blow, but I think most in the community believe that, well, you're having COVID restrictions to then have an event which were going to attract another 15,000 per day from elsewhere, including about 5,000 tickets from southeast Queensland. It was a risk that I think most weren't prepared to take.
Tell me about Meatstock. They're the promoters of this event. 2 years in a row this has been cancelled, and they had a cancellation too of a major concert in Melbourne. I think that cost them $100,000, which is cheap compared to what they would have lost out of the 2 events in Byron. Have they been in contact with you? Are they going to come back and try and do this again next year?
Well, look, the owner of Bluesfest, Peter Noble, is really, an exemplary leader in the music industry of Australia. And Bluesfest, started in Byron. It's grown in Byron, and we love it as an event. And of course, they then tour acts across Australia. This, at the very best outcome, was going to be sort of a break-even event anyway. He just was desperate to help the music industry for the reasons they've been let down, that we've discussed earlier. And so, the amount of Australian acts that were going to get a leg up, and then, of course, be able to tour across the country was immense. And so, it's devastating for him. It's devastating for the organisation. And that's why we've called since yesterday to make sure that there's significant support for this event, but also the music industry as a whole. I mean, it's a massive employer. It's not just necessarily the musician that's on stage that we often think, have surrounded in millions of dollars. The Australian musicians aren't like the Americans, where you can have one hit and then live off it for the rest of your life. There's still a lot of musos that need to gig, to pay the bills. Mental health is a serious issue amongst the music industry, and of course it's the front of house, back of house, lighting, sound, marketing. It is an industry that requires specific support, like others have received during COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a subdued Easter celebration for those in Byron, but no doubt the way Byron parties, it'll be a party for one and all.